Hello everybody, Bunkinator here, and I'm back with another review. This time we're taking a look at Initially released December 26th, 2015, Back2Fronts is an overhaul mod that introduces several gameplay changes to base Call of Duty 2, along with 9 custom levels, which is what we're here for. I'm not going to waste too much of your time. We're just going to immediately hop into the gameplay changes before we do our patented level-by-level explanation with gameplay clips. The gameplay changes include sprint, more weapons, more weapon variety for enemies and allies, although sometimes it's not super accurate. Some guns are a little overused when they wouldn't have been, but it's still cool. More friendly and enemy uniforms and death sounds. Friendlies who aren't main characters now have no name, just their role, which I'm not a huge fan of. Kind of takes away the immersion. Allies and enemies have less health and are more accurate, resulting in more casualties, like ridiculously more casualties, like entire streets being nothing but bodies. Certain German units are quite overused, mainly the Fallschirmjäger, but we'll get to that. The ability to choose your loadout before the mission starts for each of the factions is a thing now, which I'm a big fan of. 9 custom missions have been added, 3 Russian, 1 British. Yeah, only 1 British, believe me, they make it count. 3 American and 2 German. Yes, there's 2 German levels. We'll get to that. Now, that's all the gameplay changes, and one thing I'd like to add is that for every single one of these levels, I'll be giving it a score out of 10 on my opinion of how good the level is. Pretty simple. With that, let's get into the very first of the 3 Russian missions, Prison Break. The level starts with us in a prison cell. What a surprise. But to explain how we got here, we have to look at the previous level, Demolition, from Base COD 2. Banger, by the way. Fantastic level. Just as usual, at the end, we blow up the building full of Germans, and then, despite being surrounded by our allies, we just collapse and it says you've been captured. I don't know. It's their way of leading it to the next level. Back in the prison cell, it is the shittiest prison cell I've ever seen in my life, as we escape in literally 5 seconds, grabbing a Nagant revolver conveniently on that chair, shooting 2 SS officers, and jumping down another hole. We hop down the hole, using a double barrel to cap 2 more, grab their guns and kill 3 more guys stupidly running down a pathway. We reach the main area of the prison, kind of a small town of sorts, and the Germans stupidly charge us one at a time, single file. Great idea, guys. After they're all dead and we push up to the balcony that they were on, more spawn from down below, which I kill. We move upstairs, clearing the building, and shoot across, clearing another hallway, and reaching a vehicle depot. Once they're all clear, the last group of enemies are all SS. Once the Nazis are all dead, the level ends. I'm going to give this level an 8 out of 10. Pretty good level, great introduction to the custom levels, short and sweet, just kind of one-man armying through the German army. Why not? Alright, Mission 2, Sniper Duty. From here on out, the levels are much longer, this one being set in Stalingrad, baby. Woo! We start in a sewer, yippee, and start crouching our way through. Eventually, we reach the ladder that leads us up and wait for a truck to pass. We head through a hole up to the 3rd floor of an apartment building, where at first you might be a little confused, especially if it's your first time playing, because you have to snipe some dude but you can't get an angle. It's through this little tiny gap in this window over here and you can see him. After sending the officer to the big Berlin in the sky, we have to cross over an archway and I kill some more bums in a truck. We enter the room to find the dead guy is a SS guy in Stalingrad. We grab his documents, but the SS were, no major units were in Stalingrad. There might be in some like really small units, but to my knowledge, there was no SS in Stalingrad. But whatever, the mod wanted to put him here, who cares? After grabbing the documents, you can hear loud shouting of several Germans coming up the stairs to greet us, and I hide in the bathtub to shoot them in the face. They bust down the door, I kill them all, take their guns, and we head on down back to the sewers. After some more sewer crawling, we hop out to meet Private Romanenko. We have to cover him while he plants explosives on the German trains. A few Germans spawn while he's planting the charges. They're not much to deal with. Just throw a good time grenade, pick them off, not too much trouble. Then, train go boom. Shout out Black Ops 3. Once the trains are dealt with, we have to make our way through the rest of the building, stopping to snipe all the enemy snipers before crossing the gaps in the walls. Otherwise, you just get insta-killed. Also, this section uses unused voice lines from base Call of Duty 2. If you remember, if you know your Call of Duty 2, that is, the very last Russian mission, City Hall, I believe, where you have to snipe the enemy sniper, there's a whole bunch of unused voice lines that are used here that definitely were just sitting in the files that they decided not to use. We had to kill 3 or 4 snipers per crossing, including guys sitting in a trench. This is a good time to mention that there's obviously no snow, meaning this is before the German encirclement, and their uniforms are very 1944-esque. They just took the ones from, like, the later levels and put it here. So they have like ponchos and netting on their helmets that weren't used till way later. It's whatever. Also, the fat German is still here. Like, why would you not remove that from base COD 2? It made 0 sense. 0 sense. Why would there be fat Germans? Quick side tangent while you're watching me cap all these snipers in the background. It always bothered me that a lot of the levels took place after the 6th Army had been surrounded, but then on like the loudspeakers, the Germans were telling the Russians to surrender. I always thought that was weird. When crossing the final gap, Romanenko gets capped in the head, and we have to kill one final sniper. I take his SVT, hop out of the building, and meet up with our buddies in a truck. Also, this is something that even base Call of Duty 2 does. Why do the Allies always have German trucks? I've never understood that. I know it's because it's the only model that they had, but still, it's a little weird. During the long truck ride, we pull up on some Krauts who are also in a truck, kill all the guys in the back, and run the driver into a telephone pole. Look at this shit. We meet up with the rest of our allies, hop out of the truck, and head upstairs to meet with our major. He gives a speech with what I believe is more unused voice lines from the original game, talking about sniping multiple enemies, which is interesting. We had to snipe several enemy officers from across the square. This recording was actually my second attempt of recording this level, as the first time, of course I've never seen this every other time, but the first time I'm recording the level, it happens. One of the Germans was supposed to be walking between the windows, just didn't. He was just standing between them and I couldn't shoot him, so that's cool. Thanks, Call of Duty. We proceed to dome all 3 officers. Sometimes it takes a while to find them, like a few minutes. But, you know, you would think that the first thing they'd learn when they come to Stalingrad is you don't casually stroll by a window across from the enemy. Like, that's like rule number 1 in Stalingrad. Anyways. After they're all dead, the Germans still launch their attack. And you want to guess how many of them attack at once? That's right, piecemeal waves of 6 or 7 of them. The Germans get fucking slaughtered, leaving bodies everywhere, and then we launch our counterattack. Despite us being on the attack, the Germans continue to infinitely respawn, proving my theory of a German cloning machine. Once clear, a bunch of bombers come in, and we have to hide inside a building, and after that's done, the level finally ends. I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. There's some parts that could be a little better, like that ending part, with all the enemies charging across. I think it could have felt a little bit more impactful, but it's still a well-made level, so 7 out of 10. Mission 3, and the final Russian mission, Leningrad. This level is set during, as you would suspect, the Siege of Leningrad, but during the end, the relief, when we lifted the siege. Now, even though you can choose your loadout, you basically always need to have a sniper rifle, as you're going to see here. We begin stuck behind an invisible wall, having to wait for an artillery barrage to finish. Once it's done, we all move out into the street in a cool little cinematic with nice music playing. You see all the allies I have? Well, that's it. That is all of them. A few of them are invincible, the rest die immediately. So there's gonna be like 4 of us relieving the Siege of Leningrad. It's pretty funny. We have to wait at this broken wall until our commander tells us to attack. And as you have probably noticed, it is extremely open. Fun fact, Call of Duty 2 enemy AI are fucking sharpshooters and can obliterate you from almost any distance. So get used to sprinting in this level. Also, sprinting is done by hitting the use key twice, so sometimes you pick up a gun as you're trying to do it. It's a little annoying. We begin our attack and we always have to attack left. You always have to attack left. If you attack the head on the Germans on the right, you will never take it. Even on like recruit, you could probably barely take it, but on regular, like I recorded this, it's literally impossible to attack them head on. You have to attack left. So there's trench system on our left and on our right. Only one spawns in at a time. The right trench starts with those guys in it. The left trench is empty. Then once we clear the right trench, enemies spawn in the left one. I don't know, dude. It's just weird triggers. But you have to go into the left trench and slowly pick off all the little stall helms you can see until you can eventually push in and finish clearing them out. Another thing to note is that this mod loves giving the Germans machine guns. And what I mean by that is literally carrying machine guns, like MG34s and 42s. Just carrying them. Like, just hip firing them from across the map and obliterating you. It's really annoying. Like, I'm talking like a quarter of the guys are just carrying machine guns. Once clear, we can literally watch all of the guys on the left pile out and start sprinting for their trench, so we can pick off a lot of them before they get there. Then we have to clear the barn that's right behind it. Once clear, the next area we have to take is the roadblock. The best strat is to push up to the barn on the right, but since we just cleared the left in a barn, we have to cross that damn street again when there's enemies shooting at us again. So you might have to pick off a few of them with the sniper rifle to get across, or use smoke. Fun fact, we don't get given a single extra smoke grenade. You need to save a smoke grenade for the very end. Trust me, at least one. I make my way through the barn, clearing out the rest of the roadblock. Then we are tasked to attack the mortar pit. And it's much easier than the previous sections. You can get lit up a little bit as you approach, but once you're in, you're in. Also, one of our friendlies says a voice line that is definitely placeholder before they had the voice actors come in for the original COD 2, because it does not sound like a Russian guy. Once the mortar pit is clear, we move on to the artillery position, filled with Fallschirmjäger, German paratroopers. And unlike other levels, we'll see that it does make sense for them to be here at Leningrad, I think. Leningrad was one of the only places on the Eastern Front that actually had Fallschirmjäger, but most of the battles they were involved in were 1941 to 43, like preventing the Russians from leaving the city. I'm not 100% if they were there in 1944 when the siege was lifted. If you know, please let me know in the comments. I know some of you are history nerds like me. After slaughtering them all, the Germans launched probably the worst counterattack I've ever seen in my life. They charge across open ground with absolutely zero cover, no smoke, no covering fire, while grouped up in a giant bunch. Good job, guys. Like, what do you expect to happen? We just sit there and just mow them all down. Good job. Now for the final line we have to take. The second that we crest the hill leading to the position, the amount of bullets flying over my head is insane. I used my last smoke to make it up to a little bit of cover. One thing to note here that does pop up later is a weird glitch that was never patched for some reason, despite this mod coming out a long time ago. When you're fighting Fallschirmjäger, or paratroopers, which is quite often, a lot of them have German FG-42s. And for some reason, whenever they reload, it plays full volume for the player. So it sounds like you're reloading constantly. You just constantly hear someone reloading that thing. It gets very annoying. I managed to flank around to the right, pick off a few guys, and enter the right side of the trench, and just make my way down, slaughtering all the krauts. Once they're all clear, everyone begins to celebrate a little, until suddenly the ground begins shaking.
It's a counterattack! Tanks up above! Get down! Hold the line, comrades!
This part's actually really cool. The way the screen starts shaking and the way that the tanks crest the hill is kind of gave me chills a little bit. After dispatching the Tiger and Panzer IV, we mop up what's left of their infantry and finally liberate what's left of the people of Leningrad. Seven out of 10. I like it. It's a little too open at times, and it could have used some more smoke grenades. Like, just even just like 2 extra smoke grenades would have been nice. It's just so open. But overall, yeah, it's a fun level. I wish our allies were constantly respawning. It feels a little weird having just a few invincible allies, like just 4 of us clearing everything by ourselves. But whatever. 7 out of 10. Welcome to Mission 4. Tuille. Now I hear you saying, Bunganator, what is the hardest level of these custom levels? Welcome to hell. Welcome to Tuille. Welcome to the most brutal, bloody, and ridiculously high number of casualty level I've ever seen in a Call of Duty game. You know, it's interesting to see what some of these map makers implement in their maps. So far, they've been relatively balanced, but you know what would happen if the map maker was like, you know what, how many NPCs can die in a single map? Stalingrad 2.0, also known as Tuille, is a absolute gauntlet. It is the longest level by quite a large margin. It features ambush after ambush of infinite enemies, and just as a bonus, 2 Tiger tanks, because it's always a Tiger tank. It takes place during Operation Goodwood in July of 1944 as a British attempt to get closer to their main objective in Normandy, Caen. Now, the town of Tuille itself is barely mentioned when reading about Operation Goodwood, like barely. Now, just like with basically all of the custom levels, when you're loading in, it shows like a report of the friendly units, enemy units, expected weather, just cool little tidbits. The amount of friendly and enemies it says will be there is absolutely ridiculous. It says probably, I quote, the enemy number is probably 100 to 150 men. We'll see how much that stands up later. We begin in a small house and move out quickly into a field. 3 MG42s open up on us and shred our guys, but as you can see, throwing smoke and sprinting makes it quite easy. I make it around to a house, moving down a small lane, killing a few krauts, and go into the MG nest. Once clear, I regroup with my allies to find somehow 6 of them have died without me even being there. Like, the amount of British deaths you're going to watch, if you're a British person, I'm sorry. It's bad. There's gonna be a lot of dead British people here, as throughout the whole level we literally leave like a trail of bodies. There's so many bullets being shot down the main street, I have to throw smoke. Just look at this shit. What is even happening?
Braucht Hilfe! Wurde getroffen!
Once the area is finally clear, we move into a more rural area, but, you know, it doesn't last very long. Enemies immediately start shooting from windows, they spawn in, and our guys start dying like crazy. And we turn another corner to another MG ambush, because why not, and have to push up and clear that too. We enter the town once again, and reach the second bloodiest section of this level. We enter a street, and guys in the windows immediately start shooting at us. Also, remember how in a lot of COD games, like COD 1 and even COD 2, your friendlies could probably take a few shots before they die, so you can, you know, put some effort in to save them? Well, now they can die in one STG or MG shot. Just one. Just a burst. They're dead. Like, it's ridiculous. Smoke goes up, and the Germans start a counterattack. Yes, a counterattack. When we're the ones trying to take the village, they launch a counterattack. And it gets so bloody, I can't even describe it to you. They rush forward like the flood from Halo. Guys are getting domed left and right. I feel like Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, the amount of bodies and explosions going off. I can't even explain it. Just look. Once the Germans are all dead and the smoke settles, we can see the brutal amount of bodies laying everywhere. And Captain Price just, let's go, boys. Let's just move on. Just pretend like that never happened. We have to make our way up to a building, and of course, getting shot from the enemy HQ the whole way. We then reach a giant underground bunker that was for some reason built here. And guess what? We meet some paratroopers again. These guys are going to be very prevalent moving forward. I'm not sure what they're doing here during Operation Goodwood. Like, I thought they were fighting the Americans. Like, I don't know if there was any paratroopers there, but I doubt it. Clearing a few rooms, we run into SS again in their same early war black uniforms in 1944. Cool. Exiting the bunker, we get to clear out the German HQ. Look at some of the great minds amongst my British buddies. throw a smoke, and I single-handedly clear the entire HQ, because thanks, guys. I didn't need help anyways. Also, 2 SS were hiding inside. A lot of the levels, not all of them, but quite a few of them like hiding SS in like little areas. I'm not sure why. It doesn't make much sense, but I won't pass up a chance to kill Nazis. If you thought clearing the HQ might spell the end of this level, I wish it did. We regroup, and suddenly a tiger tank breaks through the wall, because of course it's a tiger. Everything's a tiger. At least we're playing as the Brits, who did actually face tiger tanks in Normandy, unlike the Americans. We retreat to a house and choose to flank it. I make my way through another house and around behind it. Behind the tiger is a MG nest, so I just smoke it, plant a bomb on the tiger, and dip. Once destroyed and everyone's cleared, we have to enter another bunker, this one much shorter. We now have to reach the rally point, the church. In our way is, wouldn't you guess it, more paratroopers. They fight tooth and nail, killing plenty of my guys, and we finally reach the church. Clearing it, the level ends. Just kidding, the level does not end. Now we have the cliche holdout till friendlies arrive, and despite the fact that we've killed probably like close to 200 Germans, more of them just come out of the woodworks like zombies. Not only do you have to hold out for like 5 minutes without a checkpoint in between, but the amount of Germans, like I said, is bad. They surge in from initially one direction, but then start entering from all sides. Enemies mixed with friendlies. It's so easy to just shoot a friendly like next to an enemy and then get a game over. Like, the body count here gets about as high as it gets in Back2Fronts. It does not get much higher than this. Bodies start despawning from us hitting the max amount of corpses in one area. Like, the floor is just made out of people. Another tiger shows up because everything's a tiger, and we have to. And then friendlies finally arrive. The game starts playing victory music, even though enemies are still swarming us, and the level ends while enemies are still shooting at me. It just fades to black while there's a guy in front of me. Cool. Despite all this, I'm still gonna give it an 8 out of 10. It's ridiculously bloody, but like, there's nothing like this you can play in Call of Duty 2 in general. Like, it's just, it's just hilarious how bloody it is. With that, we're done with Stalingrad 2.0. Alright, now we move on to the very first American mission, Mission 5, Angoville. Now, if you're a fan of the American missions in Call of Duty 2, and you should be, because they're great, you're going to be a little disappointed. Most of these are pretty mid. Most of the American missions, they have the worst missions. The first one's probably the best of the three, and it takes place on June 7th, 1944, literally D-Day +1. We're tasked with taking the town of Angoville, and when the level fades in, it weirdly displays the title Jerry's Ahoy instead of Angoville. I think that's a much better name than Angoville, but whatever. We begin with Sergeant Randall, or as I'm going to be referring to him, Nolan North, because that's who he looks like and is voiced by, and he's the GOAT, so I'm just going to call him that. He yaps for a bit in our face, and then we move on to a house. Also, Colonel Blake is here, the guy who shows up at the end of the game. You'd think being a colonel, he might have other things to do, but nah, he's here with his gat. Why not? Our boys kick in the door and immediately throw a smoke grenade for some reason that makes it hard to see. Also, the paratroopers are back, because of course they are. The intro report said nothing about paratroopers being in the area, but here they are. Also, one thing to note, friendlies and enemies can throw smoke grenades instead of regular grenades, but they're not programmed to throw them differently, so they just throw them at you or at the enemy like a regular grenade. So it's just really annoying. Sometimes like, you're just kind of snipe people and they'll throw a smoke grenade at you. We clear the house in the backyard, finally moving on to a giant field. Once we get to the very end, we get pinned down from machine guns and have to call in naval gunfire, which makes short work of the dudes. We then push into the trench, clearing them all out. Only 4 of our allies are invincible, that being Nolan North, Colonel Blake, and then McCloskey and Brayburn, who are actual like characters from the main campaign. Everyone else just dies. We cut the barbed wire and push into the forest, which is also full of enemies. The enemies in there can hide in the bushes and can see me through the bushes while I can't. I'm definitely not frustrated by this. Once the forest is clear, we move on to another field and attack the town of Angoville. Finally, we manage to push up and start clearing all the houses, one by one. The final house has SS hiding on the top floor because why not? SS go burr. Once the town's clear, they launch a suicidal counterattack that we fight off. And despite, you would think once an attack starts going south, you might, pull back and reform. No, they just charge till they're all dead. With that, the level ends. I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. It's not terrible, but it's pretty uninspired in my opinion. Mission 6, Saint Lamar. Probably the worst custom level in this mod, but it's definitely not that bad, but it's definitely not great. It's kind of just meh. We start on a road with guys and some dude named Sergeant Reynolds, who uses more, I believe, placeholder voice lines that sound like they did one take and that was it. Probably because, they're placeholder.
All right, men, listen up. We've been ordered to take the small town of Saint Lamar. Enemy strength is unknown, but we're pretty sure there's some in the area. We have got to capture this town and surrounding areas at all costs. Move quick, stay alive, and get the job done.
He says we have to take the town of Saint Lamar and that enemy strength is unknown. Yeah, I'll say, there's a fuck ton of enemies in the town. We advance up the road into an ambush. Everyone except 2 friendlies quickly perish, including the sergeant who was just talking to us. You would think that because he's a named NPC, he wouldn't die, but no, he just gets shot and killed. The enemies on the left and right can see through the bushes and have camo uniforms, so you randomly get res screened. Like you just can't see them. So I recommend going left, clearing the enemies there, and then making your way looping around because we have to clear several areas. We passed an anti-tank gun that we have to blow up later, but we can't now because the scripting is just weird. We have to come back and do it later because that's the way the level was made. I don't know. In the center of the area, there's more German paratroopers. Awesome. Once all 3 areas are clear, we have to go back and restore that anti-tank gun. We then go to a big house, mansion kind of thing, full of SS again. Once we're done there, a friendly kicks in the door and says this funny-ass line.
Taylor, good job. Now let's get outside and destroy another one of the fewest marvelous additions to the French countryside.
We then let out a battle cry and charged into the rest of the town as most of my friendlies die because they just stand in the open. I have to clear all the houses by myself, of course. Look at this shit. Montage, roll the clips. Once it's all said and done, a shit ton of tanks and friendlies appear, but most surprisingly, Sergeant Reynolds, the guy who got capped in like 5 seconds, comes back from the grave to give a closing speech. I don't know where he comes from. I think he just spawns in, but he just talks like, "Oh, good job, boys. Let's do it all over again the next day." 4 out of 10. kind of a mid-level. Now for the final American mission, the radio base. Now I said this is the last American mission, but that's kind of only half true, because we play as a British guy in a American mission. The whole level has terrible lighting, as you can probably see. The sky, it's super bright and weird. We start in a creek and make a move up to meet with Captain Price, Nolan North, and some pinhead named Lieutenant Coffee, who does not make an appearance in the main game. We have to make our way to some Luftwaffe radio place and destroy it. I don't know where we are. I have no clue. When you start the mission, it literally says you're somewhere in France. We go out into the street and immediately find our good friends, the Fallschirmjäger. And guess what? They're the only enemies in this level. Yeehaw. I know it somewhat makes sense because paratroopers were under the Luftwaffe, but there's not even like a dude in blue, the guys who wear blue, like the radio dude. No, it's just all paratroopers. Cool. A half track comes down the street. We have to destroy it. After that, we breach the front gate and enter. COD 4 music begins playing because why not? And we slaughter all the Germans in the compound. Pushing up, we enter the main building, blowing up the communication tower, and hop in the truck and leave. Then comes probably the most boring holdout section in any Call of Duty level ever. We just sit on a machine gun and just watch them hop over the wall and shoot them. It lasts like 5 minutes. There's no challenge. We don't even feel like we're being overwhelmed. Eventually, a Tiger shows up because that would definitely not be needed anywhere else in Europe, and the level ends. Pretty boring level, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. Mission 8, Red Square Massacre. The first of the 2 German levels, and it's set in Stalingrad. Probably the best custom level in my opinion, and not because you play as the Germans, it's just well made in my opinion. Our task is to, as the name suggests, clear Red Square. We start at a small outpost on our side of the square, and the Soviets attack us in a few waves. Our allies are fucking useless in this level, and I don't think I've ever seen one in this level get a kill. Once they're all dead, we grab some weapons and advance into the Russian lines. As a one-man army, you're basically soloing this entire area by yourself. The first little trench path thing is cleared, and we have to attack the statue of Stalin, picking off all the Russians. Once clear, we fight on the other side of the statue, and all of our friendlies immediately die. There's a ton of enemies spread around the entire area, but our sniper rifle makes quick work of them. Also, the machine gunner up to the top left, who, if you don't kill, is a pain in the ass, always respawns twice. Only twice, and then he's gone forever. I don't know. You can push the left or the right, but I do both. So I do the left first and then come back to the right because it spawns people, just so I can kill all of them. We then have to attack the memorial platform. I use a PTRS to destroy both of the T-34s. Once the enemies are all dead, we move on to the office building, which is also full of Soviets. At the end of the office, we have to kill the command staff hiding upstairs. Then we have to clear the barracks full of NKVD. After destroying the final Soviet tank, we then have to attack the enemy headquarters. Once the Russians are dead and the area is secure, we can actually see the ferries on the Volga. With that, the level ends. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. I know I kind of just showed mostly clips for this one, but it's literally just fighting. That's about it. Really good level. I mean, not because you play as the Germans. If you just look past that, as it's made, it's still a good level. Mission 9, Pyrrhic Victory. The final level we'll be talking about today, and it's set during Operation Market Garden at the most northern paratrooper pocket near Arnhem, composed of the British. We take part in what I believe is when the Germans were able to prevent British reinforcements from reaching the small British brigade trapped at the bridge. I think it was a brigade. We start in the HQ and grab some orders and then attack down a road. The British appear from absolutely nowhere and a gunfight ensues. The British weapons during this level are actually pretty funny. Sometimes they have Delisle carbines and silent stens. Pretty funny. One thing to watch out for is that the British can throw impact grenades and insta-kill you, which is not fun, let me tell you. Contrary to the last level, our German allies can actually kill them. The house standing in front of the end of the street contains even more British, but once clear, we can use a sniper rifle to pick off all the enemies shooting at us from around the town center. We have to clear out several areas and blow up several shit before we can move on to the end of the level, that being the church first. We have to attack the church. Attack the HQ. Destroy an AT gun, even though they wouldn't have had those because they, dropped from planes. Destroy a radio tower, and then make our way through the rest of the town to the last AT gun. And it's quite a fight, let me tell you. We had to clear multiple houses full of British dudes, then move on to the final section. More enemies keep spawning in, and we had to wipe out the final defenders at the AT gun. Weird thing, at the way the level ends, you have to destroy 2 roadblocks with literally 0 enemies, just plant 2 bombs and the level ends. But with that, this level comes to an end. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. This one's also very good, in my opinion, just kind of combat-oriented. A lot of enemies shooting you from all different directions you have to watch out for, but it doesn't feel like bullshit. Like, there's plenty of cover. Again, very sniper rifle heavy, but that's kind of all the levels. And that is going to do it for today's video. All in all, the custom levels of Back2Fronts add just a little bit more replayability to an already great overhaul mod. As always, the link is in the description, and shout out to the devs. Maybe one day they'll add more stuff to the mod, which would be great to see. I mean, they already had stuff planned, but they haven't gotten around to it. Who knows? Anyways, this has been the Bunkinator. Have a wonderful day.